This afternoon, November 7 recall of Parliament hit with another suit at the High Court seeking to prevent the Speaker of Parliament from reconvening the legislature over the vacant seats controversy.
Also to come, latest Auditor General's report identifies gaping holes in the disbursement of funds to the school feeding secretariat, hampering the provision of meals to basic school pupils.
As you may already know, it's election day in America as Democratic candidate Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump go head-to-head in a tightly contested race.
This is News Central, and I'm Kevin Yamano.
I am Mawina Igbeta. The bulletin starts right now.
The recall of Parliament could possibly be in jeopardy following yet another suit at the High Court seeking to prevent Alban Bagbin from recalling the legislature over the vacant seats saga. South Dai MP Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo has dragged the Speaker to the High Court, praying the court to affirm the declaration of the 4 seats vacant. The Honourable Member of Parliament wants the second arm of government injuncted from a recall until the final determination of the suit by the Supreme Court. A bit more from the reliefs he is seeking from that suit at the High Court. We already know that he wants the 4 members of Parliament to be injuncted. So the first one being that a declaration confirming vacancy of Fomena, Agona West, Suhum, and Amenfi seats by Alban Bagbin's ruling on October 17, obviously stemming from Article 99, which is also, supposed to determine the question around the vacancy of an MP seat. He's also seeking a declaration that any post 17th October 2024 composition of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic with the set 4 ex-members of Parliament is unlawful. And then also a declaration that any parliamentary proceedings involving the said 4 ex-members of Parliament of the 4th Republic is unlawful and illegal. Just a bit more on that statement of claim he's taking to the High Court. A declaration that recalling Parliament while the status of the said 4 ex-members of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic remains undetermined by pending processes before the Supreme Court and High Court could be unlawful and illegal. We can now speak to the South Dai MP, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo. Honourable, good afternoon to you. Many thanks for joining us here. But a matter pending before the Supreme Court, which you have also admitted in your statement of claim to the High Court. Why are you filing a suit at this time? Well, it would appear that we have lost him over the telephone. But as we've been explaining to you, he has also gone ahead to the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court to prevent the 4 MPs from entering Parliament. Now, this is coming, the High Court, not the Supreme Court, the High Court to prevent the MPs from entering Parliament. This is coming on the back of Alban Bagbin, the Speaker of Parliament's intention to recall Parliament on November 7th. He's saying that should be stopped until the 4 MPs, entrance to Parliament is injuncted because he says it's unlawful and it's illegal, making a number of statements of claim to the High Court in that suit. Now, he stems from Article 99(1)(a), which he says that the High Court, which has the sole jurisdiction to hear and determine all disputes arising out of a declaration or ruling by the Speaker of Parliament that a seat has become vacant. I was telling you about this earlier. Now, the question around the vacancy of the seat of a member of Parliament is determined by the High Court. And as you see there on your screen, is found in Article 99(1)(a) of the 1992 Constitution. So based on that, he's going to Parliament. He's gone to the High Court, excuse me. He's gone to the High Court to ask the court to ensure that these 4 members of Parliament do not enter Parliament when it's recalled November 7th, and also pending the determination of the case by the Supreme Court. Let's try again if the Honourable Member of Parliament has returned to the news. Well, now, I believe we can speak with him. South Dai MP Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for talking to us. I was asking earlier, considering the substantive matter is in the Supreme Court, we also know that in that Supreme Court ruling earlier, it had made the decision that these 4 MPs be allowed to continue their work. So why are you filing the suit at this time?
Now, I am basing my action pursuant to Article 99 of the Constitution, which is very clear that whether or not an MP is deemed to have vacated a seat or a seat is vacant is in the bosom of the High Court to determine. The High Court has jurisdiction, constitutional jurisdiction to make that determination. So that is law. You may have a course of action before the Supreme Court, but I also have course of action before the High Court. So I have a right to go before the High Court. It does not distract from the fact that another can also go to the Supreme Court. And it's that simple.
I see. There's an argument that the case would not even be heard for its merits, considering what is already known.
Sorry?
I'm asking, considering that, again, the Supreme Court ruling said that these 4 people should be allowed to continue their work. You have gone to the High Court to say otherwise. There are those who say, based on perhaps the hierarchy of the court, this is likely not to be heard.
Let's leave that to the High Court to say that based on the matter before the Supreme Court, they will hear my case. But I don't think the High Court can say that, because my claim before the High Court is markedly different from what before the Supreme Court. What is before the Supreme Court is about interpretation of whether or not Speaker has the locus, has the mandate to make pronouncement pursuant to Article 97 of the Constitution. That is an interpretation.
But that is the substantive matter.
Hold on. My action before the High Court is to confirm that pursuant to Article 99 of the Constitution, the conduct of the 4 MPs constitutes the vacation of their seat. It's markedly different.
I see.
It's markedly different.
Absolutely. If you say it's that way, or if you put it that way, then it is. But I'm saying, what I'm drawing your attention to is the fact that in the Supreme Court ruling, outside of the substantive matter, which injuncted, or set aside the Speaker's decision to announce those seats vacant or declare those seats vacant, we know that the Supreme Court had indicated clearly that these MPs, for the reasons of representation, should be allowed to do their jobs.
Yes, I'm aware of that implication.
So now the question is, does it not contrast what you're asking the High Court to do?
It does not at all. It does not at all. I am proceeded to the High Court pursuant to another constitutional provision. You may speak of internal inconsistency, but that is the law. That is Constitution for you.
I see. But, Honorable, is this an attempt to prevent a recall of the House on November 7th by the Speaker?
Yes, I'm injuncting him. I'm asking that pursuant to my action, he cannot recall the House because the status of these 4 MPs remains indeterminate. And so to that extent, the recall application that he has acted on should also be stayed.
Well, perhaps I should have finished the question. I was going to add that, is it the case that you want to prevent the recall because it serves the NDC caucus in Parliament better?
At all. The NDC caucus in Parliament is in the majority. So when you are in the majority, you are comfortable on the floor in the House. You don't have any problems. So I'll be happy that we'll go to the floor and do what we do best. But I'm saying, given the constitutional statement that we have, Speaker should not act on the recall application before him until the fate of the 4 MPs are conclusively determined by the High Court pursuant to Article 99.
Indeed. And just before we let you go, you just mentioned that the NDC caucus is in the majority. Is that to say that you do not have any recognition for that Supreme Court, ruling earlier that put the status quo, the MPP being in majority? You do not recognize that?
The Supreme Court decision is not to prevent the NDC from becoming majority or not. It is to say that what Speaker said, the effect of what Speaker said should be reversed.
No, but Honorable, not in words.
Hold on. Revise the question. So let me respond. Speaker has already made a declaration. So that is set. It's gone. It's been uttered. It cannot be reversed. What the Supreme Court is saying that the effect of what Speaker has done should be staged. The effect is that NDC is now in the majority, pursuant to Afenyo Matthew's affidavit before the Supreme Court. Now, it has to take Parliament to take a decision to cause that reversal. It is that decision, the passing of that resolution that Parliament is here to take. Because Speaker lacked the decisional quorum, that is why he adjourned the House immediately the last time. So we are hoping that on Tuesday, we may have quorum to take that decision. Otherwise, the House will have to be adjourned immediately again for lack of decisional quorum.
Again, just to clarify the point about the Supreme Court and the NPP side being the majority, if the status quo were to be reversed, then of course, then the NPP side will continue to maintain their majority. But what I'm driving at now is the fact that, listen, you talk about a resolution in Parliament. There are those who have said once the Supreme Court has ruled, there is no decision that needs to be that needs to be made by any quorum at all. How do you react to that?
I think because I'm campaigning, so there's so much noise here.
I apologize. I'll say that again. I'm saying that First Deputy Speaker of Parliament Jose Ewusu has argued that once the Supreme Court has ruled, it's automatic on Parliament. There is no quorum that needs to be put together to take a decision on it or a resolution, as you put it.
Ask Jose Ewusu what is the automaticity of the Supreme Court decision. How does it become automatic? Parliament must take a decision to give effect to that. So the order by the Supreme Court is not automatic because Speaker doesn't make decisions for Parliament. So Jose Ewusu got it totally wrong. He has misinterpreted the order. The order is directed at Parliament to act upon it. Parliament must make a decision, and Parliament makes decisions by resolution. When Parliament is about to take a resolution, they have to vote on it before a resolution can be passed. So you need the numbers. You need Parliament to take a vote. And that decision is entirely left in the hands of Parliament. Otherwise, nothing can be done about the said order. And there's nothing anybody can do.
Very well.
So Parliament must take a decision to give effect to the Supreme Court order. And that is to say that, okay, now, the majority now, which is the NDC, will now become a minority. Because we have been sitting at the place of the majority for the past 2 weeks. And I have no intention of leaving that place. So if that decision is not taken, I'll remain where I sit.
Very
as
well.
part of the majority caucus.
Well, if Parliament is able to reconvene November 7th, we'll see how that goes. Thank you so much for talking to us.
It's my pleasure, man.
South Dai MP Nelson Roxon Dafiamepo there talking to us about the latest suit as far as the parliamentary leadership crisis is concerned. He's asking the High Court to ensure that these 4 MPs do not enter Parliament and they are injuncted before Parliament is able to reconvene November 7th. Right. Now, the Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, has called for a reform of laws governing arbitration and the institution of civil claims against the state. Speaking at the conference of the public sector lawyers in Accra, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice cautioned that if not managed properly and overlooked, arbitral claims made against the government from arbitrations can cripple the economy.
We cannot discount the great Ghana and the whole of Africa in terms of office service in the international arbitration forum. It is quite curious that in some instances, companies who choose to make out any claim in our domestic courts succeed in extremely huge international arbitration actions, sometimes mount to the back of contracts which have failed to receive the relevant statutory and constitutional approvals in countries in which they operate. This phenomenon is not because of the weakness of the systems of African countries or indeed Ghana's, but simply because of the nature of international arbitration, particularly the series of proceedings, the debate of rules, and the finality of non-applicability of powers, which are just referred to. It should not be misunderstood as saying that Ghana or any African nation should shy away from international arbitration. Far from that. However, the vulnerability of arbitration to abuse and fraud highlights the necessity for more robust safeguards and commercial disputes involving state parties, where the hard press of generation is at stake. We must boost the integrity of our legal systems by setting up fair and efficient mechanisms for commercial disputes and adjudication, and strengthening the systems for conduct of arbitration in our respective countries. In this regard, the President of Ghana recently launched the Ghana Alternative Dispute Resolution Center. This center presents a viable venue for the resolution of multi-million-dollar commercial disputes in cases involving the use of the nation's natural resources right in Ghana. But I still recognize that there is a need to make federal reform to the question of education against the state. Thus, I recently presented to Cabinet a proposed amendment to the State Property and Contract Act of 1960 to compel all contracts involving the state and its agencies as parties to not only stipulate Ghana law as Ghana law, but also to have Ghana and seat on arbitration.
You're live still here on NewsCentral. Let's bring you a bit more stories in relation to the latest Auditor General's report having to do with District Assembly Common Fund and its usage. And the latest is that there's been gaping holes in the disbursement of funds to the School Feeding Secretariat aimed at providing hot meals to school pupils. The School Feeding Program, since its rollout, provides a hot meal a day to basic school pupils across the country. The quality and consistency of food provided in recent years, however, has hit a snag with continuous delays in release of funds and intermittent strikes by school feeding caterers. Currently, a cross-section of these caterers have been on strike and are currently not cooking due to arrears owed them, a situation we're learning now the Auditor General has attributed to the lack of a release of funds. Let's try and walk you through the latest report on District Assembly Common Fund, its usage and subsequent allocation specific to the matter of the School Feeding Secretariat and the School Feeding Program as we have it, and has to do with non-release of funding. That's going to come up on your screens right now. And so, based off on the Auditor General's report, 226 million cedis was earmarked for the 2021 fiscal year to pay school feeding caterers. Out of that amount, 100 million cedis was released as at May of 2023. Look at the year difference. 2021 earmark released in 2023 with 166 million cedis outstanding. These figures are in cedis. Now, with regards irregularity and the impact of the lack of release, this negatively affected the smooth operation of the Ghana School Feeding Program and the livelihood of the caterers involved, according to the Auditor General. And then what has happened to the funds, the 166 million cedis? Well, the Auditor General says that the Gender Ministry has encumbered the outstanding funds to be utilized to contract kitchens in all the schools across the country. A bigger subject matter in relation to Common Fund and its usage, particularly for the year 2023, they noted that the Ministry of Finance issued release letters amounting to 2.5 billion cedis for the Common Fund allocations for the first 3 quarters of 2023 to the administrator, but these funds were yet to be received after the 31st of December 2023. And so gaping holes in relation to the School Feeding Secretariat and the challenges with provision of hot meals to the respective pupils in different parts of the country. Well, that is beginning to take a toll because academic enrollment in some rural public schools in northern Ghana is experiencing a steep decline because school feeding caterers do not cook for pupils. My colleague Stanley Niblo, he reports that caterers make pupils in some areas to bring firewood and water to school before they cook for them.
The school feeding program was an integral part of the educational reform under former President John Agyekum Kufuor's administration in 2005. The project was designed to provide food to pupils in lower primary levels to improve enrollment and retention. Although the program has been expanded to cover more schools and pupils, especially in rural communities, the targets are not being achieved in some beneficiary schools. Caterers contracted by the School Feeding Secretariat under the auspices of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection to cook for the pupils do not fulfill their part of the engagement, resulting in mass absenteeism in some beneficiary schools. The situation is common in the 5 regions of the north. The Kandigi Primary School in the Wa-East district of the Upper West region is one of such schools. The school's enrollment shot up from 69 to 160 in a year after it was included in the school feeding program. Now, enrollment has declined to less than 30 because the feeding has been irregular.
When I came, I met the 69 people. So they complained that there wasn't any food for the children. I wrote to the district assembly if they could help me get school feeding. So fortunately, I was able to acquire that for them. So when I acquired the feeding, they started feeding and the enrollment started increasing. But the cook, the caterer, she was the problem, another challenge. So whenever she stopped cooking, you see the people drop out of school.
I requested to speak to the caterer, but the teachers claim she is not known to them. Pupils in schools in the Kwandai district of the northern region, benefiting from the school feeding program, are facing similar challenges. At the Blajai and Leseni primary schools, pupils are compelled to bring water and firewood to school before food is cooked and served to them. On some occasions, food is not prepared for the pupils for weeks. But the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dakwa Newman, during an engagement with journalists at the Meet the Press series, indicated that a new regime of caterers verification for cooking days is now in place.
In collecting data, in ensuring that people cooked or they didn't cook, everything is going to be on the MIS, that system. And it's going to give us real-time updates. We will know today the number of caterers who cooked. We don't have to wait till the end of the term to determine, because it was paperwork, they now have to put everything together, send it to the region, send it to national, they validate. So it smoothens the process, it streamlines the process for everybody.
Meanwhile, some rural public basic schools in the Nakpanduri, Bunkpurugu, Jonyo, Triponi, Saboba, Gushegu and Karaga districts that have strived to improve their enrollment are now recording steep declines, partly due to the non-availability of the feeding program. Teachers in these schools are constantly disturbed about the trend.
Last time, when the food program was there, majority of them will come, the children, a lot. And as now, as it is not there, they are not there.
Pupils who come to school on empty stomachs are forced to retreat during contact hours. The school feeding program has proven to be a viable social intervention for boosting and retaining pupils in schools. However, the responsibility lies with duty bearers to ensure its smooth implementation. Stanley Niblo, TV3 News, Northern Ghana.
This is NewsCentral, and we are your election command center. Now, with less than 5 weeks to the December polls, the National Peace Council is urging Ghanaians to reject any rhetoric or actions that could destabilize the country. Addressing the 5th Stakeholders Forum on Peace Elections or Peaceful Elections, Chairman of the Council, Reverend Dr. Edujemfi, emphasized that the power of words and actions cannot be underestimated. In these final days leading up to the election, he stressed it's essential for all citizens to prioritize harmony over decision. Crosby Annan is covering this event for us. He's joining us with a bit more from the ongoing forum. Crosby, good afternoon to you. What else can you report about this peace-seeking forum?
Kevin, so this is a forum that has brought together almost all the stakeholders in elections. We're talking about the political parties, representatives from the Electoral Commission, the Ghana Police Service, some civil society organizations, as well as some international partners. The U.S. ambassador to Ghana, for instance, is here. She's here. Denmark ambassador to Ghana is also represented here, and they are essentially talking about ways to ensure that the 2024 general election is a peaceful one. And the chairman of the Peace Council, Reverend Dr. Edujemfi, has been emphasizing the need for Ghanaians to come together and then eschew actions that are likely to throw the country into chaos. Beyond him, we've had former UN advisor, Dr. Edujemfi, is also speaking about the need for peace, asking the Electoral Commission to build on its gains in the 2020 elections. So we have representatives of the various political parties also speaking. The EC, for instance, is saying that they have engaged the services of temporary staff to help in the collation, and these are people who have some background in mathematics, in statistics, and all of that to ensure that collating of the electoral results on December 7th is smooth. The NDC has been responding to it, and they are concerned and asking the Electoral Commission to ensure that these staff that they are engaging for the elections, they are able to provide them their needs such that they will not be susceptible, if you like, to influences from political actors on election day, Kevin.
I see. Let's take a listen to some voices from this forum.
Efforts to prevent vigilantism and electoral violence. This is to promote trust among political actors and institutions, including political parties, the Electoral Commission, the Ghana Police Service, and the judiciary. We hope to create an environment where citizens will feel safe and secure, both during and after the elections. This dialogue will also serve to raise awareness about the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act 2019, Act 999, which is a critical tool in our effort to promote communities from the threat of violence. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the 2024 elections, I would like to take this opportunity to call on all Ghanaians to reject any actions or rhetoric that threatens our peace. Whether we are engaging in political discussions on social media, conversations with friends and family, or participating in campaign activities, we must conduct ourselves with the utmost respect for one another. Our words and actions have the power to either promote peace or incite conflict. Let us choose peace. Let us encourage the values of tolerance, love for our neighbors, transparency, and accountability. These virtues are essential in building the trust we need to ensure a peaceful election and a brighter future for Ghana. Finally, I urge all political parties, institutions, and citizens to use non-violent means to resolve conflicts. Disagreements are inevitable.
Reverend Ernest Edujemfi is chairperson of the National Peace Council. Crosby, we'll leave our conversation here. Thank you so much. Crosby, Noble Crosby Annan is covering that ongoing forum on peacekeeping.
Away from that, but still in relation to elections, Imani Ghana has described most campaign promises by three major political parties, the New Patriotic Party, the National Democratic Congress, and the Movement for Change, as non-quantifiable. Speaking at the Manifesto 2024, Senior Research Associate at Imani Center for Policy and Education, Dennis Asari, explained most promises by these parties, especially those bordering on the economy and job creation, are vague and do not provide specificity. Judith Brown joins us live with details there. Judith, many thanks. I'm sure it will be of interest to a lot of people what the main factors that Imani is focusing on with regards to its analysis and how it's arriving at this conclusion that a lot of these promises, particularly in relation to the economy and jobs, are vague.
Right, and so, Mawana, basically, they're focusing their analysis on 4 key areas, and that will be the economy, governance, energy and infrastructure, as well as education and social services. And so for each party, per the analysis, all the variables, as Avela mentioned, had more promises passing as non-quantifiable. Basically, that means that these promises are general, they're vague, they're not specified. And just to bother on the economy, for instance, out of about 347 promises that were made by the NDC, according to them, 233 were non-quantifiable. For the MPP, out of 261 economic promises, 216 were non-quantifiable. And for the Movement of Change, 147 promises were non-quantifiable out of 178 economic promises that have been made for that party. Just so you know, they base their analysis on these 3 parties, the MPP, the NDC, as well as the Movement for Change. And so clearly, that particular variable, as regards to the economy, seemed to cut across for all these parties as non-quantifiable. For instance, he also mentions the fact that most of these parties have not been specific as to the tax incentive they want to give with regards to their policies. And so basically, these were the key thematic areas that they based their analysis on.
And what does the Imani seek to address with these findings? Because the manifestos are out, it's not like we can have the political parties change what already is in the printed document and PDF files which have been going around, and a lot of the things they've been saying on the campaign platform. What is this supposed to help the electorate in doing come December 7?
Right, and so basically we know that we have about a month to the elections. As you said, the manifesto promises are already out. They've been launched by most of the parties. Basically what they want is for citizens to start asking questions ahead of the elections as regards to the feasibility of these policies. Note that they didn't seek to do an impact analysis. They're just looking at the feasibility of the policies. And as they mentioned, they're not quantifiable. And so they want as citizens to start asking questions ahead of the elections and not merely base their votes on emotions and, just following party politics, but basically understand what these policies can do for them, looking at the next 4 years or 8, if whatever party wins stays for that long. They need to know what these policies can do for them, whether they're feasible enough for the next 4 or 8 years. And so they should base their votes on these policies and their feasibility and start asking questions now.
Conversation here and a bit more for a lot of you who will be watching. Judith put that together for News 360. This is your election command center. We've been getting the latest from Imani Africa, who've been describing a number of the political promises by 3 major parties, the NPP, the NDC, and the Movement for Change, as not quantifiable. And these relate to promises on the economy and jobs. You should be getting some of these documents and be reading for yourself to assess and decide where you decide to vote come December 7. We can proceed with a bit more stories, this time on the campaign trail with the 2 leading candidates. And with 32 days to election, the flag bearer of the NDC is accusing government that it intends to hand over its self-imposed power outage, also known as Tumso, to an incoming NDC administration. Speaking at Ihiamanchini of the Karachi West constituency, John Mahama, says government owes close to $2 billion of gas supplied, a major cause of the outages currently being experienced few days to the December elections.
So many say this never. Na dumso a omodia bano, dumso foforo omodia bay. Na omo pia ashe NDC so. Menemu ka say enfidia especially nia omo free amanonia omo ye ram kania ewo Ghana ha. E car enne ye di omo e yakọ $2 billion. And you see this, almost $2 billion and omo deka. Enti omo manage kame kakra January 7th NDC aban for bar I say hey and ya muso munje eso make a check Ghana for say me and Papa NDC no credit for ya gia ya be kire mu ne wo ho na ye wo mani memma ye betimi asom ne asiesie ne aye ne yie.
John Mahama speaking to what he says is impending challenges in the energy sector and near $2 billion debt owed IPP's gas suppliers and the likes. He makes the argument that the NPP administration, knowing that an NDC government will take over, is slowly destroying the energy sector to hand it over to the NDC for them to be labeled as another doomsday government. We're staying with the NDC and going to Komla Kluche, who's my colleague following John Mahama all through his campaigning, because Mr. Mahama has been promising that the next NDC government will revisit the construction of the bridge over the River Oti in Dambai. Komla is following him on the campaign trail. Has joined us with a bit more. Komla, talk to us about this bridge and what Mr. Mahama has been saying in relation to its importance to the inhabitants of Dambai and adjoining communities.
Where this is side of the river, for instance, this is the place in the family. We are told about a year now, the ferry has been down, and the people have had to be using boats to cross to the other side of the road, and no heavy vehicles are able to cross to the other side. They have to use alternative routes, which has made it quite difficult for them. If you take the River Oti as well, one of the ferries is broken down. The smaller one, which is in use now, even the vehicles in the convoy of John Mahama yesterday found it very difficult to cross to the other side because it was not able to take all the vehicles in the convoy. But there was a plan John Mahama had been saying whilst he was in administration to construct a bridge over the River Oti. And he's been speaking to me exclusively on what the issue is and how government has not lived up to maintaining the ferries on the river. Let's listen to John Mahama.
One has a few things about the mode of, crossing the river from the other side to the, we've seen even the difficulty that our vehicles have had to cross the river to the other side. Your priorities going into this election, and also the focus for the Oti region in terms of the crossing of the main river, what would that be?
Yeah, this river is the River Oti, and it's one of the main tributaries that goes into the Volta River. There are several crossing points like this that cross the Volta at different locations. The one is at the Chiamanfrom, one is at Yeji, one is here at Dambai, and there's another one that crosses from Donko Krom to Pando, and there's another one that crosses from Kwajo Krom to Krachi. So those are all major crossing points, and they are managed by the Volta Lake Transport Company. And so when we're in office, we try to make sure that these ferries were well maintained. Indeed, we brought in some new ferries. Remember when we closed the Adomi Bridge, we brought 2 new ferries And so when we finished rehabilitating the Adomi Bridge, we deployed those ferries at the various crossing points. Recently, I hear that many of the ferries are in poor condition, and so we need to maintain them, because these crossings are very important to these locations, because they are areas that are very important in food production.
That's the NDC flag bearer, John Mahama, in that exclusive interview with my colleague Komla Kruche. There'll be a lot more from Komla a lot later in subsequent bulletins. But Komla, many thanks for speaking to us.
Now, flag bearer of the NPP, Dr. Mohamed Baumia, has called for unity among the members of Ofinso North and their members of parliament, Dr. Fred Asamoah. The NPP flag bearer says when the people are united, it will afford him the opportunity to build a nursing training college and to also meet the needs of the community. Dr. Baumia was speaking at Inchikaso in the Ofinso North constituency of the Ashanti region. We can speak with Daniel Opoku, who is traveling with the NPP presidential candidate, Dr. Mohamed Baumia. Daniel, what else can you report? Where is he now? What's going on?
Right, so good afternoon to you, Kemeni. Currently, the vice president is at Nkinkesu. Nkinkesu is in the Ofinso North constituency of the Ashanti region. And earlier, he met with the stakeholders. When we talk about the stakeholders, talk about the traditional leaders, also talk about the clergy and Muslim clerics. And he's been selling his idea to them, the need for them to vote for him. He mentioned soft loans for women. He also mentioned flexible passport application. He mentioned living allowances to be made available for chiefs. And most importantly, the need to have what to call Buy Ghana. That when he becomes a president, every product in this country will be manufactured and be bought by Ghanaians. The ones that can, the people of Ghana cannot manufacture, companies in Ghana or manufacturers in Ghana are unable to manufacture, then obviously government may have to import those ones. Right after that, the people also told him about their needs. One, they want government to be able to re-upgrade their existing university in the school, in the community. They have the local university where they want government to step in and also get the institution upgraded. And most importantly, for government to be able to set up a hospital for them, the community, and they need to have an ambulance to run healthcare delivery within the community. So these are the concerns of the people that they have told the vice president. The vice president also renewed his commitment that he's ready to be able to resolve all their problems when they vote for him. Currently, he's addressing party faithful as part of the agreement or as part of his arrangements. After the stakeholders encounter, that is when he comes in to meet party people, to sell his ideas to them, to solicit their votes ahead of the elections. Right after Ofinso North, we'll be moving to Afija Fabre, then also Ofinso South. So today, the vice president visited 3 constituencies within the day. That's how his schedule looks like today, and that's how the schedules are going to look through the 15 days that the vice president is going to be in the Ashanti region.
I see Daniel Woliver here. Thank you so much. Daniel Opoku is traveling with the NPP's presidential candidate, Dr. Mohamed Baumia, who we can listen to now.
Say ono wa be di o man penyin pen enya sa enti etuma no bi ma obetime di president e fie 9 pen na wo e fie 9 pe o bank kan so ham be bu akonta o yetuma no aba no onko election bi onko anu no me di etuma mi anya ma do metime di o man penyin e fie wo twi enti e fie 9 do a kise be samba ha bi o e be bu akonta anya sa ebe kiremo ejuma maye minim mohao na baha mwaka nchiremi adia ehamo ya kwan ehamo fire service tender imam aboso ehamo yebe fe mu ambulance no ba muhia hospital you muhia an upgraded hospital muhia wa ha also here nursing training college.
You're watching News Central. When we come back, we'll take you to the U.S., where millions of Americans are voting today to make a choice of who succeeds President Joe Biden in the White House. You want to stay with us when we come back with your Election Command Center. Welcome back. It's the final day of voting in the U.S. and in a matter of hours, or indeed in some areas, millions of Americans are already heading out to choose who could succeed President Joe Biden in the White House. Now, as of Monday, the AP reports roughly 82 million Americans already cast their ballots via mail or early in-person voting, many of which ended on November 3rd. The two frontrunners, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, held final campaign rallies last night. Now, Harris ended her campaign in Pennsylvania, while Trump spoke in Michigan.
Think of that statement, how beautiful that is. New heights of glory, that's what's going to happen when we win the election and we're really well. Look, the ball's in our hand. All we have to do is get out the vote tomorrow. You get out the vote, they can't do anything about it. We win. One of their top people just got on television. I was coming in and they said, these are not looking good, these numbers for them. This is very troubling. At least he was honest. No, all we have to do, if we get out our people, it's over. There's nothing they can do about it.
So, America, I am asking for your vote. And here is my pledge to you. As president, I pledge to seek common ground and common sense solutions to the challenges you face. I am not looking to score political points. I am looking to make progress. And I pledge to listen to those who will be impacted by the decisions I make. I pledge to listen to experts. I pledge to listen to people who disagree with me.
Pennsylvania and Michigan are two of 7 battleground states that would most likely decide which candidate wins this year's elections. Let's have a conversation on what these battleground states are, how they impact the elections, but more importantly, how should Africans in the U.S. at the moment respond to this election? I'm joined now by public policy and global politics analyst, Dr. Hayford Insian. He's joining us from the U.S. Doc, good morning to you. It's been an early morning for you. We got you up early. Apologies for that. But let's talk about the battleground states in this election. Some of them are repeating. But how are they changing the dynamics of the elections?
With the battleground states, I think right now, whoever wins Pennsylvania and Georgia and probably Arizona is likely to win the election. Because these are key states that plays crucial role almost every 4 years in deciding who becomes the president. Now, in Pennsylvania, it's very, very tight. And I think what has put Harris a little bit ahead of Trump are comments that were passed with regards to Puerto Ricans. So many Puerto Ricans are very upset, and women are also a little bit upset. So that might be an advantage for Harris. Right. With Africans, as we said, you know, most Africans are very religious, so technically lean towards Republicans. But with Republicans' forceful strategy on immigration, it's also turning quite a number of African immigrants away from the Republican Party. But as it stands, it's really difficult to tell who will really win the election.
I see. But it would appear that we are seeing what could be a neck-and-neck situation, considering that in the battleground states, we see each of the candidates pass each other every now and then. In final polls that we've seen, Kamala appears to be up, but only very marginal. It's such a thin, you know, thin advantage, ahead of Donald Trump, that it's hard to say who is going where. But from what you're saying, are you saying that whoever gets the blue wall, as it's called, is not important?
It's very important, but right now you realize that the past few days the two candidates, they've really paid so much attention to Pennsylvania, because that is where it looks like, from the analysis that are coming up, it looks like whoever wins that state is likely to win the election. Because with Pennsylvania is...
Very well. Doc, I'm told that we are out of time. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. We'll pick this conversation up again in subsequent broadcasts. If you were wondering what the blue wall is, we're talking about the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania lost in 2016. Joe Biden then reclaimed it from Donald Trump in the 2020 elections. This is your Election Command Center. We'll be right back.
Angloga
Well, now it's time for us to go.
Absolutely. And just quickly, join that Instagram handle 3news.gh. Find everything newsworthy from us here at Media General and TV3 FM. It's 3news.gh. Do well to follow and be a part of the conversation, from news cards to you name it what. That's a bulletin for you. Bizarre. I am Mawin Aigbeta.
Remember, we are still your election command center. We'll keep an eye on the U.S. elections for you. Stick and stay with us here on all our news bulletins on radio and on TV. I'm Kemeni Amano. Bye-bye.